Fascism. What does that even mean? Like, what is a fascist? I know it's a funny word and it sounds bad, but do you really know what that means? I didn't. So I'm happy to share what that is with you. So here's the thing. Most of us don't even know what a fascist really is. Now, it sounds really bad. Marxist, fascist, all those different things. It sounds bad, but what does that even mean? Have we had someone break it down to someone who doesn't really follow history or civics or anything like that? Like, have we broken it down? And once we break it down, we can see whether Donald Trump, who's been labeled a fascist recently, he's also been labeling other people fascists, but who's been labeled a fascist recently, does he fit that label? All right, let's start it off. What is fascism? Here's the basic definition. Fascism is a way of running the country where one person or group of people have all the power and they get to tell you everything. They control everything from media to how you think to what you watch. They control everything. To be honest, it's like a dictatorship on steroids or an oligarchy on steroids. We talked in a previous video about a dictatorship and what an oligarchy is in reference to a democracy. I'll link that video below where we talk about what a democracy is and why we value a democracy. On this video, once again, we're talking about fascism. And like I said, it's like a dictatorship or an oligarchy on steroids. With a dictatorship or an oligarchy, a dictatorship is one individual who has power and wields power. An oligarchy is a group of rich or powerful people who wield that power, who hold that power. In a fascist government, not only is it a group of people that have that power, they use fear and violence to wield that power. It's not just having that power, it's how they attain that power and retain that power. Fascists don't care about people's freedoms. In fact, they want to take away those freedoms so that they can control when people get and receive those freedoms. And therefore, they're no longer freedoms, right? Imagine a world where one person or a group of people get to decide what's true and what's false, what channels are telling the truth and what are not. And those that they disagree with get removed. And then we talk about the media and what that tends to be, but where does it stop? What about who's a real citizen and who's not? And right now, it seems like the undocumented immigrants. But what happens 2 or 3 years down the line when they get to try to decide who's a real citizen and who's not? Sounds pretty bad, right? Well, we did say it sounded bad. Now that you know fascism in a nutshell, it's pretty bad. So let's talk about and break it down even further. How does fascism even work? The first thing, one leader is in control of everything. They're in control, once again, of the media. They're in control of the military. They're in control of every single facet of the government. That person gets to be the boss forever. The second way it works, there's no tolerance for dissent. If you disagree, you get punished. If you speak out against the leader, you get punished. You get jailed. You're either with them or against them. And the third thing, nationalism. Fascist leaders often focus on extreme nationalism. They make it all about the nation and the people. They define who the people are, and their idea of who the people are and aren't, especially those who aren't, tends to be the idea that immigrants aren't the people. Immigrants aren't a part of the nation. And again, it doesn't end there. Different religions, different races, where does it stop? At least initially, it seems like it stops with undocumented immigrants. But what about general immigrants or immigrants after a certain point? Or people from different religions or people who practice things differently? Where does it end? And fascists believe that if you're not fitting within their idea of the people, then you're not a part of the people. You're not a part of the nation. The fourth thing is media control. Fascists want to make sure that no one, especially in the media, disagrees with what they say. Anything that they say or that you see in the media supports them and supports their efforts. There is no room for free speech or different opinions. in a fascist government. And then number 5, fascists love to divide people. It's either us or them. You're the enemy of the state. You're poisoning the blood of the country. You're the enemy within. And so they use that fear to keep people loyal to the leader. So as you've heard those 5 things, I'm betting you can see why people are calling Trump a fascist. Now, if you've heard that, then I bet you can probably catch a couple of parallels on why people are calling Donald Trump a fascist. Well, let's break it down. To be clear, Trump isn't a fascist. He can't be. The U.S. is still a democracy, and he's not the president. He's not the leader. But let's say he gets elected as president on Tuesday. What happens when he does become the leader? Here are a few reasons why folks think that Donald Trump is a fascist. First thing, Donald Trump wants to be the only one in control. He said it a few times. He didn't say he wanted to be a dictator on day one. He said that if he was dictator on day one, which means he has thought about it. And that's an issue in a democracy, to think about being a dictator for one day. And imagine anyone who's dictator for one day, who has full power, they relinquish that power on day 2. And the second thing, Trump doesn't like anyone who disagrees with him. If you look at it, Trump attacks anyone who disagrees with him. Even on the Republican side, you don't see Nikki Haley on the trail. If you disagree with him, you're an enemy. And that's not just political opponents. It's journalists, social media influencers. It's anyone who chooses to disagree with them. And fascists do not deal well with people who disagree with them. And when in control, they punish people who disagree with them. And when you hear Donald Trump saying he's going to shut down ABC or MSNBC or CBS, you can see that those channels tend to be channels that disagree with him. And so that's why people align him with a fascist. And then the third thing, nationalism and division. Once again, if you are not with him, you are against him. You're an enemy within. You're vermin. You're poisoning the blood of our nation. And he uses that language to divide, to continue to divide. Trump talks about America first. And generally speaking, hey, I'm looking out for myself and I'm looking out for my family first. So at a high level, saying America first isn't the worst thing, but it's the way he goes about it that worries people. Again, he often blames immigrants and minorities for America's problems. He blames the crime rate on immigrants and minorities. He blames American citizens, namely probably white Christian males, not getting jobs. He blames that on immigrants and minorities. So he uses that language to divide people rather than talking about the productivity that's added from immigrants and minorities. There are some jobs that some people just don't want to do and that are getting filled by people who are immigrating and who are just looking for an opportunity. Those are not jobs that are being taken from American citizens. But again, that's what fascists do. They create an us versus them mentality, and they allow that to continue to divide whatever country they're in. The next thing, attacking the media. We've talked about it. CBS, ABC, MSNBC, anyone, CNN, anyone who doesn't agree with Donald Trump gets attacked immediately, almost immediately, gets a name, whatever. I can't remember exactly what he calls MSNBC or DNC, MSDNC is what he calls it, like an attack on the media. And that's what fascists do. They attack the media because if there's any media that disagrees with them, us versus them, attacked. Fascists often try to use the media to control what people believe. And right now, Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to control the media, but he has undermined people's views in what's real and true in the media. Remember, fake news. That's fake news over there. Everything I say over here is correct. And so that is another attack. Even though it's not an outward attack on media, that's another attack on media. And that's what fascists do. And last but not least, from a fascist perspective, fascists encourage violence. From telling people on January 6th to fight like hell, from post-assassination attempt coming up and telling people to fight, from at his rallies telling people that in the old days people would be taken out on stretchers and fighting, violence is encouraged. And that's what Donald Trump has encouraged of his supporters. Fascists thrive on violence. They intimidate. And to be honest, that might be the biggest reason why people are calling Donald Trump a fascist. Now, you might be thinking, well, America's a democracy, and even if Donald Trump is elected president, he can't be a fascist because we'll still be a democracy. Well, again, not so fast, my friend. Donald Trump has strong influence on Congress and the Supreme Court. So when you have control over the executive branch and you have influence over the legislative and judicial branches, that's worrisome. If you look at it in Congress, even Republicans who used to totally disagree, even his vice presidential candidate who tended to disagree with him, who totally disagreed with him, has changed his views in order to support him. That's worrisome. And why do they do it? Because they want power. And Donald Trump has proven that he's willing to give them that power. So when you see leaders who used to stand up for what they believe in and used to be the party of fiscal conservatism, used to be the party of the family, the American family, shifting their views in order to follow one man's beliefs, or shifting their views because one man who is flawed in his beliefs will give them one particular issue, read abortion, then you've got to worry that what is next on the docket for that person who decides that they want to wield power. Oh yeah, I want to get rid of the Constitution. Well, if we're the ones in power and we continue to have the power, then why not? We can keep power forever because this person aligns with us. And if he has the power and we align with him and he aligns with us, then we stay in power forever. No? The second thing is Trump's influence on the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has broken precedents several times already, especially when it comes to these criminal cases. The court is supposed to be independent, and no one is supposed to be above the law. But now we have a situation where there is one person that is above the law, at least temporarily, and the Supreme Court has said that that man is Donald Trump. So when we have a Congress, again, a legislative branch that's willing to amend the rules or adjust their views to support one person, Supreme Court, the judicial branch, is willing to break precedents and amend the rules and adjust their views to support one person. Now you have all three branches of government looking to potentially support one person and one person's views. That's why it's not too far-fetched. So is Trump a full-blown outright fascist? Nope, he's not. But all the signs are there. Fascism can happen when one person gets all the power and the people around them, the group of people around them, refuse to challenge them. It can happen when the courts, the Congress, the media stop checking that person and allow them to continue to move in one direction and move the entire country in one direction, regardless of the views of the rest of the country. No challenge is allowed. So that's why people are worried. You look at the media and what Fox News has become. You look at Congress. You look at Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and what they've become. You look at the Supreme Court breaking precedents, not being as independent, but also being so far right-leaning that they've broken what they used to be. And that's why people are worried, because when you look at how easily it can be broken to support one person, it's easy to think that that can happen when that one person is fully in power. So pay attention. Tuesday is coming. People are worried. I'm worried. But Wednesday will show up, the sun will come out, and we'll move forward. Thanks for watching. Vote on Tuesday.